and welcome to Talk a Good Game. It's the preview of Chelsea versus West Ham United. Normally, it's the title contenders versus the mid-table side, but it's the other way around this weekend. Myself and Gonzo are here as per usual. We're joined by a debutant, which is Seb. Seb, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Nice to be here, guys.
Well, I'm going to pick on you straight away, Seb. What's your thoughts on Chelsea this season?
Well, they've figured it out, haven't they? Apart from the European stuff, they seem to have stopped the rot and are back on the track. I think their form, I haven't seen it latest after the last weekend's results, but I think in the form table they're right up there at the moment. So they're not going to be an easy game, but we've had a bit of a touch of luck with Diego Costa getting banned on the weekend. So with our good defensive record and maybe a little bit of impotence from them up front, I am confident with anyone these days, so bring them on. Let's do it. Let's get the double over them too.
Definitely. Gonzo, what's going on for Chelsea? They're sitting 10th. Why are they 10th?
Well, I think we saw a little bit of it in previous seasons. A bit of player power. Really, I think the players early season decided they didn't want Mourinho there for whatever reason. And how you can have someone like Eden Hazard, who looked like an absolute world beater last season, it just goes from that. I don't think he's available, is he, for the game at the Bridge. But how you can go from being a world beater to complete disinterest is beyond me. I think the players have got a large part to say in that, to be honest.
Do you agree with that, Seb, or do you think there's something else going wrong at Chelsea this season? I mean, this is a disaster for them, isn't it?
It is a disaster, especially with how comprehensively they stormed the league to start with last year. Certainly, I think it is. The players have got to take responsibility for sure. But at the best level, the managers get paid the big bucks, and the managers should be able to get the best out of those players. All hugely talented guys in the squad there. So you've got to look a little bit of both. I'm not too sure about this Hazard thing. I don't know what's going on with the changing shirts at half time. I wouldn't be having any of that if there was one of my players, to be honest. But just while we're there, I just actually have loaded up the form table, and funnily enough, it's not planned. For the last 6 matches, West Ham are top of the league. West Ham are joint with Liverpool, Leicester and Tottenham, all with 13 points out of the last 6 games, and Chelsea are 5th. So interestingly, that neither Manchester United, Arsenal, Manchester City are anywhere near it. In fact, Man City are 13th on form. So Chelsea haven't lost in the last 6, we've lost 1. So it's going to be very tight, very tight.
Well, Seb's bigging up Chelsea, but we'll see what he really thinks come the end of the show, if he's going to plump for a home win or if he's going to go for an away win. Gonzo, as Seb says, they are on form. They're unbeaten in 13 under Hiddink in the league, so they're not doing too bad. But they've only won 2 of their last 7 at home, drawing 5 of them. Do you think Chelsea are doing what Man U did a couple of seasons ago? Have they lost the fear factor at Stamford Bridge?
Oh, absolutely, but I don't think that's just Chelsea. I think the league table's been turned on its head, and you can look at obviously Leicester, then look at us, but don't forget teams like Bournemouth are probably confident of going anywhere and getting a result now, and actually they just seem to be. I don't think it's terminal decline, because I think money talks, and eventually the big clubs will be back up there. But I think the fear factor has gone for a lot of these teams. Arsenal, Man U, of course, as we know as well, and Man City look decidedly average as well. So. Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't hold any. It's strange as a West Ham fan who've gone through years of worrying about everybody, but just to actually travel to the Bridge at the weekend and not be too concerned.
Seb, I'm going to put you on the spot again. Coming this summer, supposedly John Terry is not going to be offered a new deal. They're saying cheerio to their captain and their legend, and there was talk by the famous Brentwood Gazette that he might come to West Ham United. Is that the right move by Chelsea, getting rid of John Terry, or is it a bit of a gamble getting rid of your captain who's been there for his whole career?
If I was Chelsea, I'd certainly be holding on to him. I think they've got huge problems in the centre-back department at the moment. Kurt Zouma got a long-term injury. Gary Cahill hasn't really delivered as the player they hoped he would be, as the heir, if you like, to John Terry's throne. So getting rid of someone like that, I mean, look what happened at Manchester City. They've spent big money on lots of big centre-backs, and pretty unanimously, you'd say they've all flopped. There's not an abundance of centre-back talent out there for big spenders to just go and swoop and buy a ready-made replacement. So when you've got someone of John Terry's ilk, who, yes, maybe in his declining years, may have to play less games, maybe more home games, things like that, but to just not give him a year extension because of a club policy, I think is ignorant, and I think it will cost them.
Yeah, well, I quite agree with that. Actually, as much as we don't like him as a person, you cannot fault his dedication, Chelsea, and his ability as a footballer. Before we talk about West Ham, the man in the middle at Stamford Bridge, as you know, I like my man in the middle, and is Robert Madley. The reason you won't have heard of him is because he hasn't been in the top flight that long. It's only his second season in top flight. However, it could be a good omen for West Ham. He's only ref one Chelsea game in the Premier League, and they got beat 3-1 at by Southampton at Stamford Bridge earlier this season. West Ham, however, have better luck. We had them in 2013 for the first time, and we beat Burnley 2-0 away in the League Cup. But this season, we've had them twice. We defeated Man City 2-1 at the Etihad, and then we beat Liverpool 2-0 at Upton Park. So we're 3 out of 3 under Robert Madley. So hopefully he continues his good form for West Ham. Gonzo, is this a massive... I think this is a massive game for West Ham. We're 9 points ahead of Chelsea right now. And after this game, there's only 8 games left in the Premier League. If we win, we'll obviously go 12 points ahead. Do you think that's it? They're not going to catch us?
Oh yeah, my ambitions go far beyond looking below us to see if Chelsea are going to catch us or not. Absolutely. I mean, is it a big game and a massive game? It is, but I think every game's a massive game. Village said, didn't he? Every game's a cup final sort of thing. I think the Everton game was a huge game. We said that beforehand, didn't we? You know, we're not in the habit of going to Goodison and getting something. But this is a season of breaking records. We haven't been to Anfield and got anything before, and it just seems to be the way. So why not go to Stamford Bridge? But it is going to be big, but not because it stops Chelsea from catching us. It's going to be big because we are in with a genuine shout of top four, as ridiculous as it sounds, you know.
Well, I'll tell you the stats of the top 4 in a wee second, where we're sitting points. Team news is Winston Reid is fit despite going off at Old Trafford. James Collins will return to training during the international break, so there's no chance of this game. James Tompkins, however, is back training at the end of this week, but will not make the game at Chelsea. And we've obviously got Sam Byron back from his suspension and his cup tie. Seb, what would you do at the back? Would you keep Winston Reid in there despite him being a little bit iffy? Would you bring Sam Byram in? Or is Antonio Pesci so much a right back you would keep him there?
It's a very tough one, to be honest. It's a very tough one. I mean, I sort of like the fact that we've been able to experiment with different formations, and largely it's been successful experiments each time, which tells me that the players are well drilled, they know their jobs week in, week out, and they have the ability to be flexible. So I think it's going to come down to what Slaven thinks is the right game plan for Chelsea and the team he expects to play. I think that with Chelsea having the creative players they do in the forward half of their attacking side, I think we may have to look for more defensive experience there. Whether we actually get that with young Byram, bearing in mind the fact that I think he's got a lot of potential, but I'm still not convinced he's completely relaxed and found his feet at the top level yet. And you know, most of this season he's been playing in a further forward role for Leeds as well. I think that he'll probably go with the tried and tested tape he played in recent games. Not sure about the centre back pairings, but whether we do that sort of 3-5, you know, or five at the back, however you want to look at it, wing backs with Cresswell and Antonio. Maybe with Kiate sitting a little deeper in front of 2 other centre backs, or maybe it's part of 2 centre backs. I'm not sure. But I think away from home at Chelsea, he'll probably try and be a little bit tightened up at the back, I'd imagine.
Gonzo, what are you hoping to see at the back for West Ham on Saturday at Stamford Bridge?
Well, I just want to see Antonio liberated. I understand why Bilic has put him back there, but it still is a square peg in a round hole, to use a cliche. I would go along with that. What Seb was saying, I wouldn't mind if he experimented again. Actually, I do, as you know, think Coyote is a very, very good centre-back. We know he played there as well in the Champions League for Anderlecht. He brings a composure to the back line, brings the ball well out of defence. If he went to the 3 centre-backs, I wouldn't blame him doing that. Right back Byram, yeah, it could be, but as I say, they're not a team in form. It really depends on who's marking William, with who's I think is their danger guy. We've sort of picked on Hazard a bit, but I think there's a lot of guys. You could say Matic, Fabregas. There's an awful lot of players for Chelsea who have not been on it this season. But William seems to have a really good attitude. He's skillful. He looks good. We were there, as you know, at the home game where we won. And as long as he is earmarked, I do trust whatever Bilic is going to do. But I'll probably go with the 3 at the back.
Yeah, well, it's Aaron Creswell that'll be up against William on Saturday, and he will need to be on his toes. Up front, though, Seb, who you want to see up front? We've also had Emenike. Bilic tried Emenike and Carroll. I don't think Emenike quite knew his role at the weekend at Old Trafford. I don't think he knew how to play the winger role. He didn't trap back too much, but what are you hoping Bilic does? We've also got Sacco as well.
Yeah, I actually think that I don't like having Ike and Carroll together personally. I sort of see them as one or the other on the pitch at the time. The way I would do it is I would lead with them and Ike. I think his physicality, would be something you get with Andy Carroll as well, of course, but I think that he has that little bit of additional industry to him. In that, I'm not saying Andy Carroll doesn't get stuck in; he definitely does. But Ike has that mobility to really get around the pitch, hold the ball up, and also stretch it with his pace. So I would start with Ike. I'd let him grind himself into the ground for the first hour, and then maybe make to look a change and bring Andy on, because we know what happened at Upton Park when Andy Carroll got that goal to get us the game, and I was there that day as well. And that was probably my biggest roar of the season so far. I went absolutely mental with that goal winning. So I wouldn't mind seeing a repeat of that. Andy Carroll off the bench to get on the end of a Cresswell cross or a Noble cross, whatever it was. That'd be pretty tasty. But I'd probably start with Nico.
Gonzo, have you got different? I've got a feeling you've got a different answer.
Yeah, well, I'd totally accept, as you know, Andy Carroll off the bench. I think he's a wonderful impact player that can change the game. And, I love Saka. I'd have to start with Saka. I think particularly bearing in mind their defensive frailties, if you like. I think he works his socks off. I think he'll stretch them. But I also think that possibly chances might be few and far between. Real poachers' chances in the box. And if I've got to put my money on one, I think he's our best. Since Nolan left, despite all the criticism, I do think Nolan was an excellent finisher. Since Nolan left, I think Sacco is the best finisher at the club. Obviously, by at a side, but we're talking strikers here, really. I'd have to go with Saka.
Well, as you talk about finishing, that leads me on to my next little speech. Antonio's only had 5 headers on target. However, all 5 have gone in. So how about finishing for that for you? All 5 of his headers have hit target and they've all gone in. So if he goes up for a goal, and I think he could be key going forward, because Chelsea have played Kennedy at left back recently, and he has looked a fish out of water. Everton had him all over the place. He looked like a red card waiting to happen against Everton. He didn't know how to handle Aaron Lennon, so I wouldn't fancy his chances against Antonio. West Ham, however, we've lost 7 and drawn 2 of our last 9 at Stamford Bridge. But as we know, Bilic likes breaking records. And ourselves, we've only lost 2 of the last 21 games in all competitions. So we do go there in full confidence. I'm going to ask these 2 guys if they are confident. But before I tell you that, if Arsenal lose at Everton, there is a chance West Ham could go third. There's a 4-goal difference between us and Arsenal at the moment. But if both teams were to win and lose respectively, we could actually be third going into the Manchester Derby. Seb, are you confident?
Very confident. I'm not afraid of anybody anymore. The way this season's going, you can make an argument that any team can beat any game. The bookies must be having it off this year. I mean, it must be incredible the amount of results that don't go how you expect. I'm very confident, but the same way, if I'm honest, away from home, I'd probably take a point. To be fair, I'd probably take a point quite gladly as well.
Gonzo, that's a good point there from Seb. Would you take a point, and are you confident of this trip?
I think you'd have to, but only because there's sort of a residual lingering sort of old style West Ham about me. I can't quite shift the fact that I expect it all to sort of go horribly wrong at some point. It's just been years of, but whatever, I don't know. No disrespect to anyone. Maybe we'd beat Man U and then we'd lose to Charlton or something. No, that's ingrained and embedded. So, yes, I think a point would be good, but I do think we're capable of so much more.
I'd be disappointed with a point, actually. At the end of the day, we're 5th, they're 10th. However, I get your point. We've got out of jail at Everton, we've got out of jail at Norwich. Even at Bournemouth away, I suppose we're 1 down at half time. They should probably have been out of sight, Bournemouth. They threw it away when we came out in the second half. And we lost at Newcastle. That still sits in my mind. That performance at James's Park reminds me of the ugly side of West Ham United, unfortunately. But I would actually be a little bit disappointed. This Chelsea team just don't have heart or passion. They've got talent. They've got abundance of it. But they've got an ageing defence. They look rusty but there's just something about Chelsea. They don't have what West Ham have this season, and that's the difference, and that's why I'd be disappointed with a point. Almost prediction time, but while you're watching here, remember subscribe to Hamish Chat. We had a new show come out last night. It's a new betting show. We're giving it a wee try anyway, but don't put any pressure on us, so make sure you do check it out. To keep up with all the team news, do go into clienthugh.info and chat with your other West Ham fans. It's hamishchat.boards.net. Seb, prediction time. Give us your score prediction for Stamford Bridge on Saturday afternoon, please.
2-2.
Oh, he's going with 2-2. And Gonzo, what are you going with?
I'm I think motivation's going to put a big factor. I think they're not. I think we've still got something to play for. I think they've more or less given up. I think that's going to be the deciding factor, and I think we're going to sneak it 1-0.
I'm going 3-1, and the reason for that is I think when Chelsea go down, they tend to go gung-ho at you, and I think we're the type of team that can actually absorb that pressure and hit them on the counter-attack very effectively. But Seb, thank you very much for joining us on your debut tonight.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Gonzo, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And I've been Geo from Hammers Chat. Thank you for watching. Remember and subscribe, and we'll see you back here for the review.